he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Good morning. Welcome to the King's Report for October 6th, 2017. I'm Tim Elder, sitting in for the second King of Cheongguk, Hyungjin Moon, who is away on a church retreat in Maine. And I think the weather there is going to be somewhat cooler than it was yesterday. We had an online meeting with him yesterday, and I was told that it was really like summer there yesterday. But I think there's going to be a substantial difference today. There, where the king is, they're expecting a high of 67 degrees with periods of clouds and sun. And right now, I think it's about 47 degrees there and clear. And as also during the remainder of their stay as well, they should have some fairly cool temperature. Tomorrow will be a high of 66. Meanwhile, here we're still very warm. And what's happening apparently is that the jet stream is coming across, and below the jet stream it's warmer, and above the jet stream, it's north of the jet stream, it's not as warm, but we're clearly south of the jet stream because we're going up to 77 today. It's foggy right now, and it's going to be mostly cloudy today. That's because of that front that is lying above us. And tomorrow it's going to be even warmer, going up to 81 tomorrow. And this warm weather will continue through the weekend and into early next week. On Monday, we're going to have rain, apparently quite a bit of rain. So that will be much near. I don't think we've had really a lot of rain for quite a long time, it seems. I want to go in our Rimas today, first to John chapter 14, verse 14. Yes, John 14:14. If ye shall ask anything in my name, I will do it. If ye love me, keep my commandments. And I will pray the Father, and he shall give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever, even the Spirit of truth, when the world cannot receive, because it seeth him not, neither knoweth him. But ye know him, for he dwelleth with you, and shall be in you. That's really a wonderful verse, that if ye shall ask anything in my name, I will do it. Really, when we are with Christ, when we are with true Father and Jesus, who are the Christ, we can pray to them and ask in their name, and they will help us, and they will be with us. Of course, so we cannot ask things that are selfish, and if we ask for something, they may grant it do it in a way that we did not expect, and we need to be open, prepared for that. I want to go to the Cheonsonggyong. The Cheonsonggyong, I'm in the book on restoring God's homeland, chapter 1, the second section of that, and this is on page 2008. Yes, 2008, words spoken in 1971. If you do not restore a nation on this earth during your lifetime, then when you go to the spirit world, you cannot have the value of a person who belongs to the heavenly nation. You should go into the spirit world only after bringing substantial results that come under the realm of God's dominion on earth. This is the original standard of creation. Now that sentence is translated incorrectly. The next to the last sentence, where it says, you should go to the spirit world only after bringing substantial results that come under the realm of God's dominion on earth. The idea here in the Korean is that we need to live, before we go to the spirit world, we need to live under God's dominion. And having lived under God's dominion, having experienced that even for a day, that in itself is the substantial result that we need to take with us to the spirit world. I think it's pretty clear that that is the meaning in the Korean. The English implies that even today, for example, if I bring substantial results that come under the realm of God's dominion on earth, then I've got it. That's what I need to take to the spirit world. But that's not the case here, because in the Korean, because the Korean is talking about something that no one has experienced on earth. No one has lived under God's dominion on earth, because God has not had dominion on earth. God does not have a country, does not have a nation on earth, and no one has lived in that nation, therefore. So that is why in the beginning of the paragraph it is saying, if you don't restore a nation on this earth during your lifetime, then when you go to the spirit world, you can't have the value of a person who belongs to the heavenly nation. Yeah, because you have to live in that nation. That has to be restored, and you have to live in that nation before you go to the spirit world. And then having lived in that nation, before you go to the spirit world, that is the substantial result that you need to take with you to the spirit world. And that is the original standard of creation. That is how God first set up creation. That is that we would live under his dominion, we would live we would live in his nation on earth, and then go to the spirit world. That is what would have happened if the fall had not occurred. And so this is making that point. Okay. I hope I'm driving home the point that the English translation of the Cheonsonggyong needs a lot of work. One person told me that I shouldn't criticize the translation so much, because that is one of the reasons that the Family Foundation, as one of the excuses that the Family Foundation has in promoting their adulterated Cheonsonggyong, the heretical Cheonsonggyong, the red Cheonsonggyong, the communist Cheonsonggyong that they have put out. They say, oh, well, at least the translation is better. I hope people are not bamboozled by that kind of a ridiculousness. Of course, it's not, if the original is bad, the translation cannot be any better than the original. And so if the original is heretical, then obviously the translation will be heretical. And when you go to spirit world, you cannot say, well, at least Yes, I followed the adulterated. I followed the heretical Chun Sung-gyong, but at least the translation was good. And see how far that will get you with Father when you get to Spirit World. Oh boy, people are so foolish. All right, let's look at some of the headlines before we take a break today. This guy Weinstein, apparently he's a big shot. Harvey Weinstein, apparently he's a big shot in Hollywood, and he's all over the news this morning. I guess the people in the know realize that he's a very powerful man, and he's being brought down now by the New York Times of being accused of multiple sex abuse charges over the years. And this is reminds us of what happened with that British guy. What was his name? Who, after he died, came out that he had relationships with a lot of children, and that he was engaged systematically in a pedophilia. In this case, this guy, he only picked on young women in their early and mid 20s who were trying to get into the acting business, and so they were basically trying to, and in some cases he would, a lot of them resisted his overtures, and he was trying to take advantage of them for that, and so now they are coming out and saying, because now I guess he's old and he no longer is able to, no longer has the power to ruin people financially, and so now people are coming out and accusing him, and the New York Times is publishing a big story on that, and it's a big thing. And there's still more information coming out, or speculation coming out, about the about Stephen Paddock, who killed 58 or 59 people in Las Vegas. It was at 59 at one point. Now all the media have gone back to 58. I'm not sure what happened there. Mostly, though, it's a speculation, and that he may have been looking at other possible places to conduct his massacre. But we really don't know. Maybe Chicago, maybe Boston, maybe other places. ISIS says that he converted 6 months ago. But of course, he could have, this planning apparently went back a lot more than 6 months. So maybe converting to ISIS was part of the plan. That's what I suspect. And also, Ivanka and Jared named the world's most influential Jews, so forth and so on. All right, let's take a break now, and we'll come back with more news from a Choni perspective. We'll start getting into the details when we come back.
I'm down here at the range today. I just learned a new technique from the father of the .44 Magnum, Elmer Keith, which is called shooting out of the notch, which allows you to make really long distance shots and still have an extremely precise sight picture. So I brought my CW9 car down, and with this little gun, we're gonna shoot this little munchkin at 200 yards up in the hills, applying this technique, and hopefully we'll make the shot. To apply this technique, instead of using the blade of the front sight lined up with the top of the rear sight, I'm going to take the dot of the front sight and raise it up so that it's out of the notch, but I'm still going to keep the front sight on my target. Bringing that front sight up like that is going to compensate for the bullet drop over that excessively long distance with just this little gun. So if applied right, we should be making contact. Let's see how it goes. I saw this shot, so I'm a little bit out of breath because you gotta run to make sure that is what I thought it was, and it was. So while making this shot, from that distance with these white dot sights, it literally would cover the entire target. You couldn't see what you were shooting. So using the Elmer Keith technique, you were able to raise it out of the back notch. I can't breathe. Out of the back notch, allowing you to keep your accuracy, aim, and also still see the target, which is key because it was a hard shot, not gonna lie. But yeah, it went great, and Elmer knows what he's talking about. And for such a small gun to be able to take that hit, I'm very impressed with this. All right, guys, be sure to like and share, and I'll see you out on the range.
That was awesome. Hey, can I try that one? Yeah, let's do it with the 380. Does everybody have eyes and ears?
Welcome back to the King's Report for Friday, August. No, not September or August. We're in October. The weather is in September, maybe even August, but no, the calendar is in October. October 6th, 2017, 8th year of Chungi, 8th month, and the 17th day. And if you look up in the sky this morning, there's a huge harvest moon. It's really, really beautiful. We're actually, I think, a couple days past the full moon, but it's still very, very bright. It's like someone put a spotlight up there in the heavens. I want to start today with a commentary piece on WorldTribune.com by Star Parker, and it's titled "Why Judge Roy Moore Resonates: The Country's Moral Crisis Clear to Many Outside Washington." To the dismay of Washington's Republican Senate leadership, Judge Roy Moore crushed Luther Strange in the runoff for the Republican nomination for the open Senate seat in Alabama, outpolling Strange by 9 percentage points. The Senate Republican leadership and President Trump stood behind Strange. The Republican establishment doesn't want their party branded with Moore's hardcore, outspoken Christian fundamentalism. They don't buy it, and they're afraid that it will spill over to challenges in upcoming Senate races and hurt their party. But the same flawed political conventional wisdom that led Republican leadership to back the wrong candidate in this race is operating all the time, and lessons never seem to be learned. It's true. Neither the Democrats nor the Republican establishment have learned the lesson of the 2016 presidential election. They think that it was an anomaly. They think that the uninformed Americans simply voted for the wrong candidate. In other words, not the candidate that they wanted, but for Donald Trump. So they keep trying to pull the country back into their control. In the Rima this morning, we talked about God's dominion, living under God's dominion. But the Democrats and the Republican establishment want the nation to be under their dominion, not God's dominion, and they keep trying to pull it back. But the direction of God's providence, though, is that we are increasingly moving towards Chanyuguk, and the Democrats and the Republican establishment are working with everything they have to prevent that from happening. And they just have not learned that the tide of history, the tide of the providence, is going against them. Ohio Governor John Kasich expressed his trepidations on one of the Sunday morning talk shows about the state of the Republican Party, and when asked if Judge Moore represents the party's future, he said, "I hope not." Kasich ran for the presidency against Donald Trump and in the end refused to support Trump. He said he wrote in John McCain on his ballot. But McCain is a poster child for why voters are fed up with Washington. He's been a Washington fixture since 1983 when he refused to go home. In his failed presidential run against Barack Obama, McCain refused endorsements from major evangelical pastors, John Hagee and Rod Parsley, surely alienating evangelical voters that he critically needed. After his defeat, he should have retired. Instead, he ran again for re-election twice, once at age 74 and again at age 80. If he gracefully retired in 2010, as he should have, chances are a young conservative would be in his seat. McCain's key obstructive role against Republican health care reform would not have been there, and we would have a health care bill today and the beginning of the unwinding of Obamacare. In 2012, Todd Akin, a six-term Republican congressman from Missouri with a flawless conservative voting record, ran for the Senate against incumbent liberal Democrat Claire McCaskill. Polling in the early months of the campaign was neck and neck. A Rasmussen poll in June had Akin ahead 50 to 42%. A Survey USA poll in early August showed Akin's lead at 51% to 43%. Then in late August, Akin spoke poorly in a TV interview. The reporter prodded him regarding difficult questions on abortion, and Akin used the unfortunate term legitimate rape. He later apologized about his poor use of language, stating the obvious that he was not justifying rape. Instead of Republicans coming to support a good conservative in a winnable and critical race, they dove for cover. It was reported that Senator John Cornyn, head of the National Republican Senatorial Committee, conveyed to Akin that funding from the party would dry up if he didn't withdraw from the race. Presidential candidate Mitt Romney said Akin should drop out. In the end, Romney lost, Akin lost, and control of the Senate went back to the Democrats. Now, Senator Cornyn is making the same kind of remarks about Judge Moore as he did about Todd Akin, responding, "I do not," when asked if he thinks Moore will be a productive addition to the Republican senatorial team. When Judge Moore associates the ongoing pointless violence around the nation, the chaos around the world with moral decay, this touches a responsive chord among many citizens. Critical local elections this November will test our moral mettle. A transgender individual is trying to capture a seat in the Virginia State Assembly. The Teachers Union in Colorado, looking to a 19th century dinosaur called the Blaine Amendment, which blocks government funding to schools with religious affiliation, is trying to unseat a Douglas County school board supporting school vouchers. Contrary to hurting, Moore's candidacy bolsters Republican credibility nationwide. The problem of moral chaos may not be clear to Washington insiders, but it is to many voters across America. How true is that? How true is that? It is absolutely clear. And this is like this author says, this reporter says, this is the reason that so many people now in America are rejecting Washington and rejecting the establishment and rejecting the elite, because there's been so much moral decay in the elite, and is becoming more and more obvious. And I think that is underlined this morning with this story about this Harvey Weinstein. Let's look at the Breitbart article on that. It's an illustration of the moral decay of the elite. The New York Times dropped a career bomb on Harvey Weinstein, the multiple Oscar-winning producer and Democrat-powered donor, according to the report. Weinstein has settled no fewer than 8 sexual harassment complaints over 25 years between 1990 and 2015. And Weinstein, who has been married for most of those years, told the Times Thursday that he is working with a therapist and planning to take a leave of absence from his film company. In a deeply cynical and somewhat pitiful bid to retain the affections of the Hollywood crowd in the wake of those horrific allegations, Weinstein announced he would use this time to attack the NRA and President Donald Trump. So, yes, I have done all sorts of inappropriate things against young women, but at least I'm against the NRA, and at least I'm against Donald Trump. That excuses me. That is my salvation. This is the logic of the Hollywood elite and of the elite in general, quite frankly. As long as you're against the NRA, you can do anything you want. As long as you're against Donald Trump, we'll excuse anything. I'm going to need a place to channel that anger. So I've decided that I'm going to give the NRA my full attention. What anger? Not contrition? I hope Wayne LaPierre will enjoy his retirement party. I'm going to do it, and at the same place I had my bar mitzvah, I'm making a movie about our president. Perhaps we can make it a joint retirement party. Lisa Bloom, a high-powered attorney, usually standing with accusers, so he still thinks that he's part of the elite. Maybe he is. Maybe he is. Maybe they will forgive him. But this is not the type of thing, though, that the general American public is going to forgive. The people that voted for Trump last November were saying, we're tired of this kind of a thing. We're tired of this kind of thing. We want fundamental change in the in the elite. Yes, Trump is married 3 times, but better than Hillary Clinton, better than Hillary Clinton, and better than the other elite. Lisa Bloom, a high-powered attorney, usually standing with accusers, or usually standing with people who have money, is representing Weinstein in this matter and told the Times that her client denies many of the allegations as patently false. Many, but not all. This, however, is not a denial of all the claims. Weinstein added, "I appreciate the way I've behaved with colleagues in the past has caused a lot of pain, and I sincerely apologize for it. Though I'm trying to do better, I know I have a long way to go." So that's supposed to be the lawyer-crafted apology. "I appreciate the way I've behaved with colleagues in the past has caused a lot of pain. I sincerely apologize for it. Though I'm trying to do better, I know I have a long way to go." So that's the apology that he has issued to all the women that he sexually molested. Senator Hillary, this is a photograph here of Hillary Clinton and the Miramax boss Harvey Weinstein arrived at the Brooklyn Museum for the premiere of Miramax Films' Finding Neverland, October 25th, 2004. And this here is a much younger Weinstein, 2000, that's 17 years ago, with Bill Clinton. He was a big Clinton supporter and donor. Above and beyond the settlements are other accusations, including one from veteran Hollywood actress Ashley Judd. She claims that 2 decades ago, when she was still a movie star and on the pretense of a breakfast meeting, Weinstein, who was then at the height of his fame, invited her to his hotel room, where he appeared in a bathrobe and asked if he could give her a massage or she could watch him shower. So this is the type of thing that people do when they have power. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And this is the type of thing that goes on in the elite circles. Things only went downhill from there, Judd alleged. Mr. Weinstein soon issued invitation after invitation, she said. Could he give her a massage? When she refused, he suggested a shoulder rub. She rejected that too, she recalled. He steered her toward a closet, asking her to help pick out his clothing for the day, and then toward the bathroom. Would she watch him take a shower? She remembered him saying. I said no a lot of ways, a lot of times, and he always came back at me with some new ask, Ms. Judd said. It was all this bargaining, this coercive bargaining. And, you know, women who find themselves in this kind of situation, I'm sure that there are women who are finding themselves in this situation even today, because this guy is not unique. He's not unique at all. And this happens all the time with people in the elite circle. And women need to understand the importance and value of their sexual purity so that they can, you know, they say, okay, if this is what it's going to take for me to have this career, then I don't want this career. And just turn around, go out the door, and close the door behind you. And find something else to do. If this is what it takes to have a career, then you don't want that career. This appears to have been Weinstein's modus operandi: breakfast meetings in hotel rooms, appearing in a robe or barely clothed, a request for a massage. In interviews, 8 women described varying behavior by Mr. Weinstein, appearing nearly or fully naked in front of them, requiring them to be present while he bathed or repeatedly asked for a massage or initiating one himself. The women, typically in their early or mid-20s and hoping to get a toehold in the film industry, said he would switch course quickly, meetings and clipboards, one moment intimate comments to the next. One woman advised appear to wear a parka when summoned for duty as a layer of protection against unwelcome advances. Do you really want to work in a place like that? According to one accuser, Weinstein went beyond indecent proposals. Italian model Ambra Battilana claims Weinstein grabbed her breasts after asking if they were real and put his hand up her skirt. The police got involved, but no charges were filed. According to the Times, Weinstein later settled with Battilana. One of the 8 settlements reportedly includes actress Rose McGowan. For 3 years between 2006 and 2009, McGowan was dating and later engaged to Robert Rodriguez, a director who regularly works with Weinstein, including 2015's flop Sin City, a Dame to Kill For. These are the various people who have had their picture taken with Weinstein over the years. There's Michael Moore, there's a Jay-Z, because he was powerful and he could make or break people in the film industry. But if it requires you to compromise to this extent, it's better to just turn around and walk away. That takes courage. That takes courage, especially if you've put a lot of investment into becoming an actress and put a lot of effort into that, and then you're faced with a situation where the most powerful person in Hollywood wants you to watch him shower if you want a place in his movie, if you want a role in his movie. Just say no. Just say no. And keep saying no. And if you get fired for it, then consider that a good thing. Consider that a liberation from Satan's realm. You know, it's whether that authority figure is a Hollywood movie mogul or a pastor of a church. Yeah, it happens with pastors of churches too. It happens. It has happened, we know. Just walk away, walk away. You don't want that. You don't want that. You don't want what he's offering. For one thing, what he's offering is false. He'll just toss you away once he gets what he wants. All right, let's take a break now. We'll come back with more of this story and others after this break.
Let go. Give me your heart, give me your soul, sing it with all your might. Come to the fountain and you can be satisfied. There is a peace, there is a love, you can get lost inside. Come to the fountain.
$6.58. 6:14. 6:46. This time, 471.
Hello folks, I'm Justin Moon, the president of Carr Firearms Group, and today I've got the PM40 with True Glow night sights, and look at that, Magna porting. Look at that porting on that. This is our standard PM40 with the day sights, but now this model with the Magna porting and the True Glow night sights. What a difference. The 40 caliber PMs have a reputation for being quite a bit of a kicker. They do kick a lot. And so we put the Magna porting on these PM40s, and boy, what a difference does that make. It really makes this PM40 shoot a lot softer, reduces the muzzle flip, the recoil comes straight back into you, and becomes a very manageable pistol.
Give me your heart, give me your song, sing it with all your might. Come to the fountain and you can be satisfied. There is a peace.
And welcome back to the King's Report for Friday, October 6th, 2017, 8th year of Chungi, 8th month and 17th day. And I'm Tim Elder sitting in for the second king of Chungi, Yang Jin-Moon. And we're going through this story that was blown by the exposed by the New York Times this morning about this Hollywood mogul who has been harassing young women for decades. And now that he has lost his power, now he's kind of old and retired, and so now he's no longer able to stop this kind of news from coming out. But it turns out that this was not a secret. This is not a secret. The Times story also notes that Weinstein's behavior has never been much of a secret. Rumors involved sexual harassment, a volcanic temper, and bullying of subordinates have swirled around Weinstein for 2 decades. Although allegations like these are nothing new and have been floating around and even joked about since the 1990s, no one would have dared come forward until now. Weinstein was just too powerful for too long. And this is the story that we hear, isn't it? Jimmy Savile was the British guy, the British famous presenter, who after he died, it turned out that he was deeply involved in pedophilia with also some of the other elite in the UK. And here again, this is somebody is engaging in this kind of sexual harassment. This is not pedophilia in this case. Apparently, he was, at least from what we know so far, what has been revealed. Maybe there's more that we don't know about. But from what has been revealed so far, his victims were young women in their early to mid-20s and people who wanted to become actresses. But no one dared come out because he could ruin people or ruin people in the... See, there's a... depends on ruin or success, depends on what standard you're applying. And he could ruin people according to Satan's standard. He could ruin people according to the general standard applied by the world that we live in other words, the world that is under Satan's dominion. That is the standard by which he could ruin people. He could make them not able to have a career in the movie industry, that kind of a thing. And people considered that to be ruin. But we need to have a different standard for ruin and success, all right? Because when we go to spirit world, having been a star in a movie is not going to get us very far in spirit world. Whether or not we maintain our sexual purity before marriage and our fidelity in marriage, that is going to be the standard by which we are going to be judged in spirit world. Everyone wanted to work with him. Everyone wanted him to pick up and distribute to their passion project. Weinstein was the bear no one dared poke. Also protecting Weinstein from the consequences of his behavior are his correct politics. Weinstein is a leftist, a Democratic power donor, and high-profile political activist who passed himself off in public as a male feminist. Whoa! So during the day, he's a male feminist. During the night, or early morning, it turns out, he's a sexual predator. In 2015, the same year, Ms. O'Connor wrote her memo. The company distributed The Hunting Ground, a documentary about campus sexual assault. A longtime Democratic donor, he hosted a fundraiser for Hillary Clinton in his Manhattan home last year. He employed Malia Obama, the oldest daughter of the former President Barack Obama, as an intern this year. Boy, if I were Barack, I would be worried. And recently helped endow a faculty chair at Rutgers University in Gloria Steinem's name. During the Sundance Film Festival in January, when Park City, Utah held its version of the nationwide women's marches, Mr. Weinstein joined the parade. Today, Weinstein is widely regarded as past his prime. Numerous reports indicate that the 65-year-old is in deep financial trouble. Moreover, he has not produced a hit or come near Oscar Gold in nearly 5 years, and his highest profile offerings have all bombed, including Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight. Weinstein no longer has the juice to ruin anyone. Without that shield, it looks as though Weinstein faces a reckoning that has been a long time in coming. So that is John Nolte on Breitbart News. So now, of course, the elite are sort of circling the wagons around him. Former Obama advisor Anita Dunn helped Harvey Weinstein strategize before New York Times story. And actually, this situation is causing difficulty for the Obamas and Clintons. The mogul who has been accused of sexual harassment has given generously to Hillary Clinton over the years. So now, let's get this straight. All these people are saying that women who voted for Trump or voted against Hillary were voting against their voice. But Hillary was supported by a sexual predator. So so women were supposed to vote, take their cue from a sexual predator. Is that? Do I have it right? Have I got it right there? It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. Harvey Weinstein, over the last few decades, has exerted his significant influence over the world of Hollywood filmmaking and entertainment. But as a reliable and consistent donor for Democratic politicians, his largesse and deep connections have also translated to the world of electoral politics. These Democrats. The mogul was the subject of a New York Times expose published on Thursday, alleging that he has reached at least 8 settlements with women over sexual harassment claims. Weinstein told the paper that he was taking a leave of absence from his company in order to focus in part on his political goals. I'm going to need a place to challenge that anger, so I've decided that I'm going to give the NRA my full attention, Weinstein wrote. And we've already know about that. Weinstein was a strong supporter of Hillary Clinton's recent presidential run and donated to her political campaign about 10 times during 1999 and 2016, according to a review of campaign finance records. Weinstein donations to Clinton over the years total more than $20,000 and span from her successful campaign for U.S. Senate in New York in 2000 to her unsuccessful presidential campaign in 2007 and 2016. He also donated to her husband's presidential campaign in the 1990s. Only $20,000? Donations to Clinton over the years total more than $20,000. Well, there are limits on individual contributions, and so it must be that, I'm sure though he donated indirectly in other ways. More broadly, Weinstein has donated generously to Democratic political candidates, National Party campaign committees, and state Democratic Party operations over the last few decades. Last year, he also gave $10,000 to a political action committee associated with the advocacy group Human Rights Campaign. On Thursday, after the Times report came out, a spokesman for the Democratic Senator Martin Heinrich's re-election campaign told The Hollywood Reporter that a $5,400 donation from Weinstein in April has been given to a New Mexico nonprofit organization that offers a 24-hour hotline for survivors of domestic and sexual violence. So people are trying to, beginning maybe to distance themselves. Yes, we got this donation from Weinstein, but we gave it to a nonprofit organization that is helping survivors of domestic violence and sexual violence. So we're still righteous, we're still righteous. The decision to do so was made as soon as Senator Heinrich learned of these allegations, the campaign representative said. And Senator Patrick Leahy has also given away a campaign donation from Weinstein. Weinstein threw a fundraiser for Clinton in June 2016 at his home in Manhattan, co-hosted by several A-list actors. He also reportedly attended several other fundraisers for Clinton in New York City during the campaign. But who is, I'm sure there's someone else who is doing exactly the same thing now. All right? I'm sure there's someone who's doing exactly the same thing now. Pretending to be a feminist by day and by early evening, even at night, but then at breakfast time asking young women to watch them shower. Or asking, can I give you a massage? Well, give me a massage. This kind of a thing. This kind of thing is going on. This kind of a thing is going on. It's just this one guy lost his shield. He's no longer able to ruin people, and so the New York Times comes out. The New York Times has had this information for years and years, even decades, but only now are they coming out. He also hosted fundraisers benefiting Barack Obama's re-election campaign in 2012 and donated several times to his campaign in 11 and 12. Weinstein is considered a bundler for Obama's campaign as he raised $679,000 for it. And Obama's daughter, Malia Obama, also recently interned for Harvey Weinstein's company in New York during a break before college. Weinstein, in an interview on CBS in April 2016, expressed a preference for Clinton over her then rival in Democratic primary, Senator Bernie Sanders. I'd rather go with Hillary's, who's a strong, proven leader, he said at the time. According to an email leaked and published last fall, the Clinton campaign helped prepare Weinstein for the interview. Okay, so this guy was caught, but he was only caught, after he lost his power. just as with Jimmy Savile. Jimmy Savile, of course, died, and that's how he lost his power. Apparently, this Weinstein guy is in some sort of a financial difficulty, and that is why people are able to attack him, and he's not able to, or at least he's not able to respond too much. Let's take a break now, and we'll come back with more news from a Choni perspective after this.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Hi, welcome to Tommy Gun Warehouse. We have a short video for you this afternoon. We want to show you how to work the action on a P380. This is our very small pocket 380 that it has a very strong spring, to work the slide. And this is because it's a very small gun, and we need to have that extra spring tension to actually make the gun work properly. So today I want to show you how to properly work the action. Ladies sometimes find it very difficult, not to mention some men find it difficult to work the slide. Okay, so I just wanted to show you how to hand a firearm to someone properly. The ejection port should be up, the slide is back, and nothing in the magazine well. Then you take this and you hand it to somebody in this manner. They should then verify that it is empty and nothing in the magazine well. And now what I want to show you is how to work the action on this P380. It's sometimes difficult for men and many times difficult for women, but if you know how, it's not that difficult. So Dai is going to start out by facing at a 45-degree angle downrange. The gun is going to be, the axis of the barrel is going to be the same axis as her forearm. She's going to keep it closer to her chest, and then reaching over the top with her weak hand, she's going to make sure that this ejection port is clear, that her hand isn't in the way, because you don't want to have an accidental detonation of a primer and injure your hand. So using the upper body strength, you're going to, just work it together, push and pull at the same time, and lock it back. And it's just that simple. You might not get it the first time, but all it takes is a little practice and learning how to use your muscles, and you'll do just fine. Dai had started this just a short time ago, and after the third or fourth attempt, she was doing it perfectly. So thanks for listening. Come down and see us at Tommy Gun Warehouse, and we'll show you this P380. Yes, sir.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Friday, October 6th, 2017. Tim Elder sitting in for the second King of Chanyu, Hyungjin Moon. And I want to go to a story now about Steve Bannon and Judge Roy Moore, who will be headlining the Value Voters Summit. Breitbart News Executive Chairman Stephen K. Bannon and Republican nominee for the U.S. Senate Judge Moore will be two of the headliners at the 2017 Values Voters Summit on October 13th to the 15th. That'll be a week from today. It's beginning. Value Voters Summit, or VVS, is the single largest gathering of social conservatives in the nation each year, with roughly a couple thousand attendees from all across the nation. The event is hosted by the Family Research Council and showcases a lineup of senators, governors, congressmen, movie stars, and national leaders on religious liberty, family values, and the pro-life movement, among others. Bannon, the former White House chief strategist and the CEO of President Donald Trump's historic presidential campaign, and Moore, the former Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court, who has now been nominated to take the Senate seat from Alabama, once held by Attorney General Jeff Sessions, have now joined the lineup for this year's VVS, which will once again be hosted at the Omni Showroom in the nation's capital. So this article is calling him the CEO of Trump's historic presidential campaign. As you can tell, Bannon is in charge of the Breitbart News, where this article is written. They're a little puffing him up a bit. Value voters made a difference in President Trump's victory on Election Day, and now they are headed for the U.S. Senate, said FRC President Tony Perkins, who also superintends VVS each year. Despite voters giving Republicans the majority in the House, the Senate, and now control of the White House, almost every promise made to voters over the last 7 years has come to reside in the U.S. Senate's graveyard of political promises, added Perkins. Steve Bannon, who helped orchestrate the grassroots political movement that led to President Trump's success, is now moving to Act 2, the U.S. Senate. Yeah, obviously at least 2 acts and perhaps more are going to be needed if the swamp is going to be drained, because many people in the Senate are, of course, part of the swamp. Bannon is now apparently turning his attention to the Senate. Try to get some more friends there. Perkins is referring to the fact that many conservatives are increasingly and vocally frustrated with the Senate's evident inability thus far to pass legislation enacting the president's agenda, and by the slow pace of Senate confirmations for President Trump's judicial nominees and of staffing up key positions in the Trump administration. We are excited that Steve Bannon and Roy Moore will be joining value voters and sending a message to the establishment. True conservatives are on the march, declared Perkins. Wow, that seems to be an event that is worth paying attention to. And that's going to be in Washington at the Omni Showroom starting October 13th and going to the 15th. Let's look at, I wanted to look at this, I'm very interested in the Iran nuclear deal. Apparently, President Trump is getting ready to decertify that nuclear deal next week. And I'm trying to find a news source that I would trust on this. I'm not really able to, so let's do the next best thing and look at the New York Times and see why they hate the fact that Trump is doing this. We can read between the lines, I think. What is the Iran nuclear deal and why does Trump hate it? Let's see what the New York Times, warning, New York Times. President Trump may announce in the coming days that he will decertify Iran's compliance with the 2015 nuclear agreement reached with 6 world powers, including the United States. Here are some of the questions and answers about the nuclear agreement and the possible consequences should Mr. Trump take that step. Which countries negotiated the nuclear agreement with Iran and what did it accomplish? The permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, Britain, China, France, Russia, and the United States, plus Germany, known as the P5+1 group, negotiated the agreement with Iran. Disarmament advocates consider it a major achievement of the Obama administration, averting a possible military conflict with Iran and a nuclear arms race in the Middle East. The agreement severely limited Iran's ability to enrich uranium fuel and other activities necessary to make nuclear weapons. While Iran has repeatedly promised that it would never seek nuclear weapons, the agreement provided verifiable assurance for the first time. In return, a wide array of economic penalties that had been imposed on Iran were rescinded or suspended, including many American sanctions and a European oil embargo that had weakened the Iranian economy. But is Iran complying with all that stuff? And also, was this agreement, was the Iran nuclear agreement passed by Congress? Was it a little bit skeptical on that. The Iran Nuclear Agreement Review Act of 2015 is a bill that was passed by the U.S. Congress in May 2015, giving Congress the right to review any agreement reached in the P5+1 talks with Iran, aiming to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. Setting the record straight on Congress's review of the Obama-Iran nuclear test, while not ultimately successful, opponents of the President Obama's Iran nuclear did important work by passing the. Okay, so they did make it possible for they're saying that the president needs to certify that Iran is complying with this. Setting the record straight on Congress's review of the Obama-Iran nuclear deal. While not ultimately successful, opponents of President Obama's Iran nuclear deal did important work by passing the Iran Nuclear Review Act of 2015. This is an article published a year ago. In a recent editorial on possible nominations for Secretary of State, voting in favor of Congress somehow facilitated the deal's path through Congress. That notion is based on fundamental misunderstanding of our Constitution and the relative powers of Congress and the President in foreign policy, and it's important for conservatives to get this right. Many people think that Congress ought to have forced the President to submit the Iran deal as a treaty. So, yeah, it was not passed by Congress as a treaty. That was what I remember. That was what I was trying to verify. And it was not, the Iran nuclear deal was not actually approved or was approved by Congress as a treaty. In fact, Congress had no way to do that because the President was misusing waiver authorities granted in prior sanctions and therefore didn't need Congress to implement the deal at all. So this was done, this Iran nuclear deal was done by the executive branch alone. So this is saying that the Congress couldn't stop that because Obama was misusing authorities that had been granted previously in context with other sanctions. Without INARA, whatever that is, Congress might never even have seen the deal and would certainly never have voted by bipartisan majorities in both houses to reject it. The fact that 98 members of the U.S. Senate and 400 members of the House voted to force President Obama to submit the Iran nuclear deal to congressional review was a significant defeat for the Obama administration. In the spring of 2015, as President Obama and Iranian President Hassan Rouhani were putting the finishing touches on a wholly inadequate and disappointing nuclear deal, Congress had no way to stop it. President Obama planned to use the waiver authorities already provided to him in U.S. law to relieve sanctions in exchange for minimal curbs by Iran on its nuclear activities. Thus, the President had no legal obligation to submit the deal to the Senate as a treaty or to both houses as a congressional executive agreement. Indeed, Obama made clear he didn't plan to submit the deal to Congress and told the Iranians as much. Only INARA, which passed with veto-proof majorities, forced him to come to Congress. INARA was authored by Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chairman Bob Corker and other Republican anti-Iran hardliners, including Senators John McCain and Graham and Rubio and McConnell, Cruz, and others. The bill also was strongly supported by the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, hardly a squishy organization on Iran issues or one looking to facilitate a bad Obama-Iran deal. By suspending the President's ability to waive Iran-related nuclear sanctions until the final deal was submitted to Congress, the bill gave Congress the time to review and vote on the deal before it went into effect, potentially halting implementation ahead of time. None of this would have occurred without the bill. Of course, even though Congress voted by bipartisan majorities to disapprove the deal, it wasn't able to muster the votes to stop the deal. But to be clear, had Congress never passed INARA, there would have been no requirement to submit the deal to Congress, no revelation of all its flaws, and no time for Congress to vote. The deal would have simply been an accomplished fact. Get rid of the sanctions, Congress had only one option to try to make it a treaty. All right, to get a veto-proof majority of senators to vote for such a move, an impossibility when 46 senators belong to the President's party. All right, so that gives us context. What the New York Times is praising as one of the best accomplishments of the Obama administration was something that was done without without Congress having the ability to ratify it as a treaty. So now that, but because Congress did, though, because the Republicans in Congress did manage to pass this bill that